NFL Week 6 already underway. We have a game right now at halftime from London. I am Gino alongside the Wolf of Oaklawn, Chase Sessoms, who's joining us today, filling in for Eric, Uncle Rico. So Chase, thanks so much for hanging out with us today, buddy. And we're already underway. It's going to be one of those long days of football from very early in the morning to late Sunday night.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love these days. I've always been a big fan of the London games just because of the crowds that it draws and everything. So, it's going to be a long, fun day of football for sure.
So since we're already underway, we're going to get right into the action in just a moment. Remember, because it's bye week, we don't have as many games. Some teams that are on their bye. We already had our Thursday night game, and there's already the Sunday morning game going on right now. So those games are already in the rear. Let's move on to what's ahead of us on Sunday and on Monday. If you're following along with us, make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel. That would be a big help. And if you want to share it around with your friends, we also love to hear from you in the comment section. Any games that you like today, any thoughts at all. So, Chase, let's get started with the Washington Commanders at the Baltimore Ravens. I think one of the more interesting games of the week because Washington has been so good, so impressive. You can go through all the Jaden Daniels stats. They've been money. You feel like with them, there's probably a week coming up where they're going to have one of those bad weeks where everything sort of comes back to life. Maybe they get beat by 20 or 30. The problem is I as a gambler, like I'm waiting for that week where they're favored over a team, right? And that might be the time to play them. This week, the number is all the way up to Baltimore -6.5 or 7. You were able to get it at Washington +7. To me, that's too much if I was trying to lay the number with the Ravens. That's way too much for a team. Like if you back Washington today, you could be down 10 to 12 points the entire game, and all you need is a backdoor late Jaden Daniels touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the story here is going to be the Baltimore defense. If you look at what they're able to do, they're so good against the rush, but they're, kind of middle of the pack against the pass. And I think Jaden Daniels in that excellent, completion percentage is going to be able to pick apart Baltimore. And like you said, this number is just way too big right now for I think this game.
So, I mean, if this was a low, I'm looking for the spot to try to fade Washington at some point throughout the year when it's the right week, when it's the right matchup, when it's the right number. This one doesn't seem like it to me. So that's where I have to stay away. But you talked about the defense. Not only do you like Washington a little bit, you also like the prop play too. We're going to give them out at the end. We'll show them all. But you feel like this is a game where it's just going to be a little bit more defensive than maybe the offensive game that everyone's expecting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have two teams that like to run the ball, that's going to eat up a bunch of clock. I think that this is going to turn into a pretty defensive kind of slug out game.
So Lamar Jackson and Henry have outrushed their opponents, or the Ravens overall have outrushed their opponents by at least 100 yards in all 5 games this year. That's the longest stretch to start by any team since 1933 when yardage was fully tracked. They've now outrushed their opponents by 754 yards this year. Henry and Lamar are 2 of the top 7 rushers in the league this year, and they're both in the same backfield. So just incredible what they can do. And you can see they sort of figured out the scheme a little bit now. Like the first couple weeks, they didn't really exactly know where to be. Shotgun, Henry, do we stand here? Now, like, they're getting really fluid with it too. This is a really, really interesting game to kick off the Sunday slate, the main slate on Sunday. Let's get to Arizona at Green Bay. I don't know what to think about this Green Bay team quite yet, Chase, because they've had such an uneven season. Love started game 1. Then they had Willis for a couple games. So their entire scheme changed. For those few games, they were the Malik Willis team that was running the ball, not going that deep down the field. Then the last few weeks, you can tell Love hasn't been really 100% healthy, and he's been kind of up and down, made some really bad throws, bad decisions, but then come back late. They beat the Rams. Arizona, kind of a feisty team. They come off of a win against San Francisco. Their defense is miserable, but offensively, they're pretty good. They can light things up. Kyler looks like he's kind of one of the best versions of Kyler that we've seen over the last few years right now.
Right, and this is one of those games where I ended up staying away from it, but it's because I'm scared of the Kyler Murray magic.
Yeah.
is really what it comes down to, is the fact that he can just kind of make things happen. I do think that Green Bay is going to run the ball fairly successfully against Arizona, with them being
Agree.
bottom half of the league rushing defenses. If they focus on the run, I think that Green Bay has a chance to cover this, but this was a hard game for me to take overall.
Yeah, I'm in a pool where you have to pick the spread of every game with some of my buddies. We do it every year just for a few bucks. So I probably would lean Arizona just because I feel like the number, like another one of these where Green Bay could be up 10 and you could get the Kyler backdoor touchdown. And the fact that Green Bay's defense has been kind of up and down also. So like I think this is a Green Bay win, but a game that Arizona could keep a little close. I didn't make it one of my best bets, but if I was leaning that way, if I was leaning anyway, it would be Arizona. And I will say the last couple years, I've been pretty impressed with their head coach. Like they don't have a whole lot, especially on the defensive side. And they are feisty and pretty competitive in a lot of games. I mean, they were competitive with Dobbs starting games for them last year. And now when they have a better quarterback, they actually just look like a competent NFL team that could beat you if you don't show up and play really well. So see if they can lean on the rookie, lean on Connor and the run game. Where do we head next, Chase? We go to the Patriots. It's Drake May and Mayo. You're going to be eating your mayo today? Spoonfuls of Drake Mayo. No, that's Will Levis, right? Will Levis is the Mayo guy.
Right.
I forgot.
That's right.
I think May and I think Mayo. Nonetheless, we have Drake May making his first start. And I got to say, from a numbers standpoint, this is one conversation that I have a lot with Eric, and where the part of me as a gambler where I kind of battle with my thoughts are, this game looks like the game to fade a certain team, but I can't get there on the field and how it's going to happen, right? Like in this game, I would want to fade Houston because I don't think Houston is quite as good this year as their reputation is. They've been in some close games. Collins isn't going to be there. They can't really run the ball all that well. And now you got to go play at New England. The problem is, there are versions of this game in my head where New England just cannot move the ball at all. And Drake May is looking lost and really struggling back there. So this is where the gambler in me and like the football analyst in me are like butting heads, because the gambler says, well, there's no way I'm going to lay 6.5 or 7 points on the road. But then I'm thinking, They haven't been able to run the ball. There are no weapons there. The offensive line for the Patriots is horrible. The only time we saw Drake May for a little bit, he was like really trigger happy. It was at the end of a game. He just didn't look comfortable. And I don't know if Brissett has been the problem. That's what's a little scary to me about this spot. But when I do that, Chase, I end up just taking 2 steps back and I don't do anything when I'm going like back and forth like this.
Yeah, this was, for pretty much all the reasons that you just listed, was a pure sit out for me. I mean, you have the question with Houston. I mean, last week, if not for some terrible clock management, Houston's a loser in that game.
That was an all-timer. And there were 5 games last week that were decided by one score in the last 2 minutes of regulation or overtime. I was on the wrong side of all 5. There were 8 games that were decided by less than one score. I was on the wrong side of all 8 last week. Literally, you couldn't have made it up the way some of them had happened. And Buffalo was one of them, where it's like, you get the ball back. Oh, cool. They'll run it, run it again, scramble around for a second, punt the ball, and then we go to overtime, most likely, But
yeah,
it was funny because I guess if you have like a crazy person like Josh Allen, there's a part of you that thinks maybe Josh Allen can make a play to get us in field goal range, even though he was horrible that game. So Josh Allen was 9 for 30 against this same defensive front. And now Drake May is going to have to go against them.
Yeah, and with Drake May, I really do think you see sometimes the backup magic, where you get backup quarterbacks come in. They really want to play for this backup. They think that this is the guy going forward, and they show out. I can't say for a fact that I know that that's going to happen or anything. I think that I have the same hesitancy as you with Drake May, which is, sure, he had a couple times where he looked good in the preseason playing against very vanilla defenses. But coming in late in mop-up duty, a little bit quick on the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he could be just like you're saying, he could be a little scrambling around in the back and like you could see him doing some things with his legs. I just have a hard time seeing him being comfortable in the pocket here. Maybe if you want to play something in here, I might be okay with like a Drake May rush prop. Like I could be okay with something like that
Yeah.
because I could see him having to just, let's go again. Let's just pick it up and run. But I wish I could get there with the Patriots. Can't quite. And this is another one where the Saints, as we move to the Saints versus the Tampa Bay Bucks, Saints are a 3.5-point dog at home. Weeks 1 and 2, they look incredible. Everything goes well for them. Then they get a couple injuries, a key injury to their center, a couple key injuries on defense. Week 3, have a chance to beat Philly, but that wasn't a game they should have won, actually. They were like in that game despite a lot of their mistakes. It was really the game against the Falcons where that was super disappointing because the Falcons didn't score an offensive touchdown. The Saints literally gifted the Falcons 2 touchdowns. One of them, Shaheed fumbled into the end zone, and the only thing a Falcons player had to do was lay on the ball for a touchdown. That was how they scored one of their touchdowns. The other one was a Drew Brees tipped pass that like caromed into a Falcons defender's arms, and he just jogged into the end zone. That's how they scored 2 of their touchdowns. So you feel like the lucky unlucky meter is due to kind of go back towards the Saints here, but you've got Rattler starting today. That's the big concern here against a Tampa team that's been playing pretty competent throughout most of the season. And they were pretty unlucky in their game against the Falcons too. It was almost the exact same thing that happened to them when they have the ball late with a chance to win the game. I think there were 2 missed penalties, in particular, one bad missed face mask call that would have kept Tampa in field goal range and changed the complexion of their game. So I think both of these teams are kind of due for a little bit of like luck regression, but I don't know what to do with Rattler with the Saints. So again, this is like a stay away from me in playing that game because the gambler in me versus the football guy is going back and forth. I think you have a prop play in here though, right?
I do. I'm going to be taking the under on the Spencer Rattler passing yards. I got it at 181.5. And I think the deal is, and if you look at just how the Saints have played throughout this season, it's been a very run-centric offense. And I think they tried to hide Spencer as much as they possibly can behind Alvin Kamara, behind Taysom Hill. I think that the under is definitely the way to go there. There's one prop that I really want in these Tampa Bay New Orleans games that no book is really seeming to offer, which is Mike Evans fights. How many fights Mike Evans?
Over under punches thrown versus Lattimore. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we make it? So let's say like what constitutes a fight? If we get a pushing, can we cut like that constitutes or like penalties thrown? I'd say like 2.5 penalties thrown between the two guys.
I think it's a grab and hold and shake. If you grab and hold and shake, then that's when we start getting into fights.
My biggest score at Santa Anita ever, I hit for 29,000, and I did that to one of the workers at Santa Anita. I came around the corner, and they were like, I was screaming like as I was coming around the corner, yeah, and they're like, you got it, and I was like, yeah, and they went for a high five, and I grabbed them and shook them like this. It was like Adam Sandler with the kid, don't grow up when he's in Billy Madison and he's shaking the kid like, no, stay in school. You love it. That was me. I know the grab and shake very, very well. So, I think if you're the Saints, the way you come into this game thinking, look, we have to run the ball. We want to limit the possessions in this game. We want to make this a low-scoring game. We want to make this an ugly, muck-it-up game. Then can we make 1 or 2 plays to Olave? Can we make 1 or 2 plays to Shaheed? Rattler probably run the ball a little bit too, right? You'll probably have some. The only problem is you worry about it with the backups running because then you don't want them to get hurt if you don't really have many great backup options behind them now, So I just don't think we can expect a whole lot through the air from this Saints team today. I like your approach here, Wolfie, is like you're looking for a play in this game. We don't really know what to do with the sides. Let's go under on the passing yards with Rattler. Again, That's kind of the theme for me this week, where it's like, at the gambler in me would love to play the Browns right now because nobody wants to play the Browns. And as a gambler, you know, when there's a spot that nobody wants to play, you're going to get a little more value. This is a line that's like 9 that probably should be closer to 7, 6.5, something like that, right? But because the Browns have been so bad, you're getting a few extra points and it's built in. And honestly, it's pretty amazing to see a Philly team favored by 9 when we've got like Sirianni on the hot seat. Like we've been hearing about for the last couple weeks.
That was my main takeaway of why I would be on the Browns here, which is I know there's no data to back it up. But
nothing. I mean, you and I could have an entire podcast just crapping on Deshaun Watson. I have lists. I have entire lists. He has the lowest EPA for any Browns quarterback starting weeks 1 through 5 since 2000. And think about that. Think about the bad Browns quarterbacks that there have been. He is the worst. And you know who has the second worst slate of 5 games? Deshaun Watson. He is the worst and the second worst of the Browns quarterbacks we've seen. There have been 153 quarterbacks who have had at least 100 dropbacks through the last through 5 weeks. He ranks 153 of 153. Out of 621 quarterbacks since 2000, he ranks 618 out of 621 based on EPA per pass play. He has more settled lawsuits, 23, than touchdown passes since being traded to the Browns. I thought you might like that one. That's pretty good. A pretty good one there that I picked up. They were 1 of 13 on third down last week. They didn't even get that third down until a meaningless drive late in the game when they were absolutely done and already crushed. This was just the write-up from NFL.com. I quoted it. The offensive line doesn't protect well. They rarely find reliable success on the ground. They continue to commit too many penalties. They even struggle to get the play called and lined up in time. Deshaun overthrows, holds on to the ball, misses open throws. In 5 weeks of unrelenting pressure, they've caused him to pull his eyes down as soon as he senses the heat, making for the easiest third down decisions for opposing defenses. Hit, send the house. There's some funny stuff that you can read. All that being said, the Eagles should not really be a 9-point favorite over anybody right now. We have their 2 best playmakers just coming back from injury. Jalen Hurts has been a turnover machine this year. And their defense, I think what we've seen from the Eagles and the Rams the last 2 years, teams that have top-tier talent but not a lot of depth. So as soon as these teams get injured, well, wow, they're just a different version of those teams. And that's where the Rams are right now, and that's where the Eagles kind of are too. Like, in the picks pool, I'm picking the Browns. I don't know if I could get there and bet the Browns heavily right now, but I cannot lay it with the Eagles with what we've seen from them so far.
Just the question for me is, in my bones, do I trust Nick Sirianni to cover 9 points in an NFL game? And the answer is just a flat out no.
No. That's 100% the way you have to look at it. Sometimes just that simple. Let's move along, Wolfie. Colts at the Titans. Titans coming off a bye. This is Mr. Mayo, Will Levis. So when I see younger teams like this with an early bye, I do feel like Tennessee should look much more competent this week because now Brian Callahan, who I kind of like, the Tennessee head coach, just seeing the way he reacts to Levis's plays and stuff, it's like, I love that he's just a real human like any of us would be. Like, what the F are you doing, bro? You know, like he's looking at him like he's not giving him the like behind the card talk. Like he is just like, get the F over here right now, you piece of F. Like, so the funny thing about all this though, is that like Levis has some of those moments. Like Levis is, I think you called Jameis like dime store Josh Allen. Like, I actually think Levis is kind of even a less like dollar store Josh Allen. Because like you can see him make some incredible throws. And he has that like, I'm not scared of taking a hit. I'll go right at you. But there's just this like decision making with Levis where it's like, what are you doing? Like, how did that seem like anything close to a good decision? But now you've had time off the bye to go back and look at some of the things that have been working for Levis. right? And now you can kind of highlight those, isolate those. I think they lean on the run a little bit here. And we're not really sure what we're going to get from the Colts today, right? Because Taylor's not starting, and you were going to maybe have a Richardson prop, but we're not even sure right now if it's Richardson or Flacco, are we?
Yeah, but the thing is if it's Flacco, then I think might have a case of wrong team favored here.
Yeah.
With the way that Flacco has been just cooking, the last couple weeks. Also, I think it could be interesting. A prop that I just kind of thought of is maybe like a Mo Alley Cox anytime touchdown, just with the amount of like Flacco targets that he got in the red zone last week.
Nice.
Might be kind of sexy there.
Nice. Yeah, this one's one of those strange ones because with all those variables on the Indianapolis side, I'm going to stay away from this one. We move to another team coming off their bye, the Los Angeles Chargers. They're a 3-point favorite on the road at the Broncos. Broncos had one of those really big game-changing plays last week in their game where the Raiders were up 10-3. They were driving into the end zone, and there's a pick six that flips the game. And instead of being 17-3, it's 10-10. And after that, the Broncos kicked the crap out of the Raiders the rest of the game. But it was funny because early in the game, they were about to be down by 14, and that one play just flipped everything. I don't know how good Bo Nix is, but in the last couple of games, they haven't been asking him to do a whole lot. Just make easy reads, make easy throws. They've been leaning on the defense a little bit more. It actually looks like Sean Payton is trying to get a football team to win games instead of actively sabotage and tank a team like he did last year with Russell Wilson, who he just hated. So you can actually see them looking competent. The Chargers are kind of been a fascinating team too, because I don't know how good they really are. They've been okay in a few games. They want to do the Harbaugh things. They're like a team. It's still kind of square peg round hole. Like they want to do the Harbaugh things. They just don't have all the Harbaugh guys there yet to do those Harbaugh things, Right. But they have the template. They'll run the ball. They'll stop the run. Their defense is way better. And they've improved on a lot of the things where they used to struggle, like stopping the run, and they weren't good consistently running the ball. They just don't have, for me, the Chargers, when I'm watching them too, I don't trust any of their pass catchers. Like when Herbert needs, to go pick up a first down on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6, they don't have
Keenan Allen
or Mike Williams or Austin Eckler, any of those guys that they used to go to. It's Quentin Johnson now, Josh Palmer, who's been kind of banged up and we all expected to get more from, and we haven't. So I don't think either of these teams are that good. I would lean Denver as a 3-point home dog, but it's not like a strong play for me or anything, like divisional home dog kind of a thing where I'd probably take the money. But yeah, I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other on this one. Chase, how about for you?
Well, when it comes to the sides, I don't have a strong opinion, but I do have a strong opinion on the total, which is, I think, if you're unaware, I have a wrestling alter ego known as the Unders Taker.
Oh, yes.
XFL Jim is my pallbearer. His urn is filled with burnt up over tickets. I think the under here is the way to go. If I could make my eyes roll into the back of my head right now, I would do it. But yeah, when I was looking at this game last night, I noticed that both these teams, they're number 1 and number 2 in points allowed per game. And with that just smells like under to me. So I
offenses that aren't like lighting it up. Right, we're just talking about they lack playmakers. You've got a rookie quarterback who doesn't really know who he throws the ball. Like he doesn't have all these guys to throw the ball to. On the opposite side, the Chargers are pretty one-dimensional. You feel like they're just going to try to run the ball a lot. I like that play too. I don't think they're going to be a lot of points scored here.
Yep.
What are you looking at?
It smells undery.
Yeah.
I found it at 35.5. It looks like that's about what it got it at right now.
One of the first things I learned and when I was gambling, and I haven't done this every week, but it was sort of a good metric to where if you're just looking for games to play every week, the highest over and the lowest under are games that you should actually play go with them. You should go under the lowest under and over the highest over, because those are kind of like the curve. They set the curve for the rest of the week.
Right.
So that's something I've always just learned that really early on when I was gambling and listening to some sharp people, and something I always take an eye, like which one's the highest over, which one's the lowest under. These are games that people would say, oh, that's too easy, let's go over. Right. But you want to do the opposite. Actually, that number is really low for a reason. It's kind of begging you to take the over when the disciplined gambler says, you know what, I'm going under, and we're going to root for running plays, not a lot of big plays, and the unders taker, dun, 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 as we move along to the Steelers at the Raiders. So many of these games today, Chase, where it's like Pittsburgh favored on the road. Should they really be favored on the road against that many teams? Because they're not a lighted up scoring team, right? The Raiders have a lot of bad going on. We don't know what the hell's up with the Devontae Adams. Is he in? Is he out? Now he might be coming back. We're not sure. The Raiders will play 1 week really inspired, where they're not talented, but it looks like their team's all flying around and it looks like they like their coach. And then the next week, it looks like they hate their coach. Like, I never know what to expect from them. They've been a real Jekyll and Hyde team over the last few weeks, and it would feel like this would be the week to go back to the Raiders, the way that their season's kind of been like a roller coaster. And Pittsburgh's come back to life a little bit after that start, where now it's not all positive for Justin Fields. It's not everything, coming up flowers for them. I just don't know with the spot we're getting O'Connell here starting, right?
Yeah.
For the Raiders. So another situation where the same thing I was talking about for the Texans-Patriots game. Do I like backing Pittsburgh here where you need them to win by a field goal or more? Nah, I don't really like playing Pittsburgh and Tomlin in that sense. But are there versions of this game where Aiden O'Connell is just having a tough time doing anything with the ball? I mean, that could absolutely happen here.
Right. I agree. And, with that indecision, it's another game where I think I actually stay away from playing a side and I play the total again. And it's the under 36.5 here.
Yeah.
You look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's tied for second in points allowed per game, and both offenses are in the bottom half of the league in points per game scored. I think that this is another tee off on the under, and it's the second lowest total that we have this week, I believe.
Yeah, Pickens. You're hearing kind of negative stuff about Pickens over there. Also, and the thing about Pittsburgh offensively, I was expecting them to be able to run the ball a little bit better than they're able to run the ball right now too. So another one where we're going to be rooting against the points. And one game today, you and I, we're going to have our head-to-head beer bet on is this next one. I got a Gatorade right here. It's not a beer, but we'll have our head-to-head drink bet as we go Falcons at the Panthers. Falcons are a 6-point favorite at the Panthers, and the Falcons on paper have just been way better than the Panthers. They've been more impressive. They've been moving the ball. Kirk Cousins is coming off a much better game. I'm kind of banking on the Falcons' luck meter running out a little bit here because we kind of were talking a bit earlier about when you look at some of the Falcons' wins this year. It's kind of funny. They're 5 games. They actually should be 1-4, and their one win should have been the game against the Chiefs where they got screwed late with the bad penalty call, and they should have lost the other 4 games. So they should be 1-4. They're actually 3-2, and their wins and losses are none of the games that they should have been. Like, they got extremely lucky in the game against the Eagles when Sirianni was doing the weird stuff late, and then Barkley dropped the pass that would have won the game for them. Then the Falcons get the ball, drive down, and win it late. Against the Saints, they didn't score an offensive touchdown. They were gifted 2 absolute touchdown gifts in that game, and then they still needed to kick a 58-yard field goal to win the game as time expired. And then they were lucky enough to get the ball back last week late in the game after Tampa was driving, and Tampa, they had a missed face mask call, so Tampa had to punt back to the Falcons, and the Falcons go down and score late. I think there were 3 situations where they were like under 15% win percentage, and they've won all 3 of those games. So you feel like that might run out at some point. But Chase, my counter to that would be, is that just like a Kirk Cousins thing? Is that just the way he plays football? Because the Vikings a couple years ago were the same exact way, where every game they were in probably should have lost a few more of them, but at the end of the day, you're scratching your head. It's like they seem to win all those one-score games. Sometimes that is a skill.
Right. To me, the question for this game is more about did Carolina get the one little pop in performance from bringing in Andy Dalton, and then that was
The 1
it
week
for
bump.
the 1 week bump? Because I could easily see Atlanta covering the 6, but also I could easily see, you're right, you have the what is it, the negative turnover regression that Atlanta gets with having a couple bad bounces. I went ahead and leaned into Atlanta minus the 6 because I just think that Carolina is just a terrible combination of allowing the most points per game in the league and near the bottom of the league in points scored per game. I think that I gotta say that just with the weapons that Atlanta has between Mooney, Ray McLeod, Drake London, Bijan, that they just kind of outclass Carolina right now, and I think that they're easily a touchdown better.
So there's not a lot. This is one of those where there's not a lot on the Carolina side that you're leaning on as far as the game analysis. This is more of the play against the Falcons and what's been happening. This is hopefully a close game and like a field goal game instead. And maybe just sort of, did Carolina get the big bounce, kind of regress a little bit last week? And then this week, maybe they can even out somewhere to where they'll be more of a competent team than they were with Bryce Young. Not as good as they were a couple of weeks ago, and maybe not as bad as they were last week. The real key for me is, can they run the ball? Because if they can run the ball, I think they'll be able to be successful here against an Atlanta team that's been really, really bad defending the run. That's one of the places where they've struggled. So can Hubbard run the ball here? Can they eliminate the turnovers, just get a clean game from Andy Dalton, hit a couple of their playmakers, and have this be a game where you're down by 10 and you can get a backdoor, you're down by 9, you can get a late garbage score, put this within one score. That's what I'm hoping. So we have our head-to-head beer bet, Panthers for me, and Chase is on the opposite side. Chase is laying it with the Falcons.
Let's keep rolling. I ran into Andy Dalton in the airport one time.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. I didn't want his autograph or anything. I just wanted to say, hey, I know who you are, and then walk away.
That's great. Okay, so hey, I know who you are. You point to the red hair. Red. Hey,
I
red.
Gotcha.
I like that. I like that. So, okay, we got Joe Flacco starting today, for sure. We have, because all the actives, inactives start coming out right now. Christian Watson for the Packers, active today, dealing with the low ankle sprain. So just something to keep on monitoring. We'll let you know as these games keep getting posted and some of the inactives keep coming through. We are moving along to the Lions at the Cowboys. Lions are a 3-point favorite on the road at Dallas. I don't love playing road favorites all that much. Just the way that this number's ticked down now from 3.5 to 3. And at 3, I would be okay getting on the Lions side here, I think. Because this is a game where I don't know if Dallas is going to be able to stop the Lions' run game. Like, the Dallas Cowboys are really bad against the run. They are dead last in rushing EPA defensively. They are 29th in rushing success rate. Basically 50% of the time you have a positive run play against the Cowboys. And that's just the worst matchup for a team like the Lions, who are 3rd in rushing EPA. They are 2nd in rushing success rate. The Lions have a 50.8% rushing success rate. So every other play is successfully graded. They're picking up 4 yards or 5 yards on a first down. They're getting the first down if it's a third down. Whatever is a successful play, that's what EPA is. It's not necessarily just getting 2 yards on each play. It's what does that play and down call for, and how would it be successful? I think for the Lions here, you're just going to lean on Montgomery. And I could see this being a game where they're up, and then late in the game, Gibbs isn't the run it out guy as much as Montgomery is. Gibbs is your super talented guy that you want him to touch the ball a lot, but you're going to get him some passes. You're going to get him some creative looks, some screens, some reverses. Montgomery is just hey, we're just going to keep pounding it at you and wear you down repeatedly. So I think he's the guy late in the game. I believe his total was 58. So I boosted this up to get up to positive money. If I feel like that's one of the handicaps of this game, I want to lean into it. So 70 is not an absurd number for him either, So let's get plus 140 on the David Montgomery alt rush total there. Anything else you want to mention about this game, Wolfie?
I just think that Detroit is such a balanced team that they can do both things so well. Dallas, you lose your world beater of a pass rush with Micah Parsons being out. I'm with you where it's really hard to not take a home dog in this situation, but I just think that Detroit, with that balance, with that run game, we're gonna might have a field day with Dallas.
Coach Campbell was 4-19-1 in his first 24 games. And now, as a head coach, he's 27-27-1. He's made it all the way back to 500 after being 4-19-1 to start. Over their last 31 games, they're 23-8. The Lions, only the Chiefs, who are 24-7, have a better record than them. And when you look at, a lot of franchises and how quick they are to fire a head coach, how many teams would have kept Dan Campbell after those 2 seasons where he's 4-19? Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
But and we all kind of laughed at him at that point because he was saying things and not getting results. He was talking about biting people's kneecaps and like, I promise you we're close. These guys are going to run through a brick wall for me. I will do that. And you kind of laugh at someone when they're not getting the results. But it's fun. As soon as you start winning, the things he's saying now, they don't seem as funny anymore, and I bet you if you went and polled all of his players, 99% of them would tell you they'd run through a brick wall for him,
Oh, I guarantee.
Right.
I guarantee it. Guarantee they would run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell.
I would. I'm not even a Lions fan or but it's like he inspires you and
he makes me want to eat at an Applebee's, Gino.
I know. I just want to kind of turn to him and point my butt and just like get an ass slap. You know what I mean? Like I want that approval. Like I used to have that feeling with Pete Carroll as a USC fan. I'd be like, Petey, come on, give me a pat. Give me a pat on the butt so I can get out there, But now I want one of those like fatherly approval pats from Dan Campbell. That would be like, yeah. Like I think that's how all the guys feel about Dan. Great job by the Lions holding strong with a coach that just flipped the entire way we think about this team. It's amazing. Like in the couple of years since knowing Eric, Uncle Rico, who's a Lions fan, we went from every game, they're an underdog. If they win, it's like oh my gosh, to now they're expected to win almost every game. And it's a crazy dynamic. Even talking with Eric, like at the last year where their total was like 9 or over unders. And it's like, whoa, what? The Lions 9.5. It's amazing how one person can flip everything. And this team is they're fun to root for. They really are. They also kind of have the little bit of revenge because remember last year when they got screwed with that late call in the Cowboys game? That Sunday, was it Sunday night or Monday night? And it was late in the game and it was a horrible call for them and they ended up losing that game. And it really could have cost them like playoff seeding and stuff. But so you wonder, maybe they'll remember that and they will want to play really well in this one. Let's move to Sunday night and Monday night, Wolfie. 2 more games for us to discuss. We've got the Bengals at the Giants. Both of these teams could and should be a lot better than their records are. Honestly, like the Bengals have one of the best offenses in the league. They are second in EPA per drive. They are second in offensive success rate. Statistically, this is by far the most efficient offense they've ever had with Joe Burrow. They blew a 10-point lead with 6 minutes left to go. Then they missed a 53-yard field goal in overtime to win the game. We saw USC do the same thing yesterday. When you play for the field goal, it's like the gambling and the football gods are like already against you. When you play it so safe to kick a 50-ish yard field goal and you don't even try to move the ball at all, they're going to get you. And that's what happened. You just cannot play it that safe. So the Bengals are 1-4 with 4 one-score losses by a combined 15 points. Any one of those games they could have won. Any one of them. And honestly, the Giants, they beat the crap out of Seattle last week. That was bizarre. Without Neighbors, without Singletary, they have 24 first downs and 420 total yards. They won the time of possession in that game by almost 15 minutes. And in that game, the only reason why it was even close was because in the first quarter, they're driving, going in for a touchdown. They fumbled the ball, and Seattle got a 102-yard fumble touchdown recovery. So instead of being 7-0 one way, it was 7-0 the other way. That was a 14-point swing. Like, if that play doesn't happen, the Giants kick the crap out of Seattle. And the Giants' losses now, you sort of look back at their schedule. Week 1, they got beat up by the Vikings. And we were all laughing at them like, they lost to Sam Darnold and the Vikings. They got crushed. How good are the Giants? Well, now we look back and it's like, the Vikings are one of the best teams in football right now. And more importantly, the Vikings have a really difficult defense to prepare for. You know, week 1 of the NFL season, and Brian Flores is throwing all these crazy blitzes at you. I think a lot of teams would look really unprepared in that situation. And then the Giants' other 2 losses, they lost to Washington when the Giants' field goal kicker got hurt to start the game. So the Giants couldn't kick any field goals that game. If they don't have a field goal kicker get hurt, they beat the Commanders. And then since that game, the Commanders have been incredible. The Giants were driving with a chance to win the game against Dallas. Daniel Jones overthrows a wide open receiver there. They win that game. They could very easily have won 2 other games. I don't think they were beating the Vikings. They never were close in that game. I'm just looking now at their body of work. We kind of write teams off early in the season sometimes and just think they're not good. This team might be a little feistier and a little bit better than we think they are.
I agree. And, you know, I decided that this game was a stay away for me. And the reason it was a stay away was, and you kind of, you hit on it pretty well, which was, I don't know which team is going to out unlucky the other team.
Yep. Because they're in that sense of like, it's Halloween, Friday the 13th. Everything's going to go wrong. Like I was telling you, when I'm watching games right now because of what happened last week, I feel the bad spot coming. You feel it. Like it's that pit in the stomach feeling, you know? So I think the right spot here is Giants, but there is one Bengals game where everything kind of goes right for them coming and they win by 25 points because their offense is so good. And that could be coming somewhere.
Right. Where if this thing ticks down to maybe 3 points, this is where it gets into it's just a reflex for me at this point, where if I see a home dog within 3 points in the spread, then I'm probably going to go ahead and take the dog on the money line sort of thing, especially if I'm getting plus money. But yeah, I need to see that tick down first, but I'm with you. Just 2 unlucky franchises. Just someone's going to out unlucky someone else here in this game. And I have no idea who it's going to be.
Chase, we got our final game of the week, the Bills versus the Jets. Before we get to that game, just want to mention a couple things out there for everyone. The Pick'Em contest. Chase, this is something that you and I got involved with a few years ago. The website is pick'em.santanita.com. And if you're watching this show, you will love these contests because they're free to enter. There are 12 prop questions, and on a Sunday like today, a lot of them are involving the football games, asking you questions about the line of a particular game, but they also involve horse racing, and that's what's pretty cool about these contests. I don't know any other contests that are multi-sport with horse racing as one of the sports. Maybe you'll get some baseball, basketball, football kind of contests or only football props, but if you're a horse racing fan, this is pretty cool because you can answer some of the questions about Sunday at Santa Anita, like pick the winner of race 1. That's one of the questions. But prop 2 is Chargers -2.5, Broncos +2.5. And a lot of the props are at half points. So that way there's a winner or a loser. You won't have a push, usually one or the 2 ways for a lot of them. So fun. And you can actually win $1,000 for nothing Uncle Rico won one of these things. Eric won one of these. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Cause it's, they're like some of these contests that you play in, you always wonder, it's like, is this real? This is like a mythical contest. Cause I don't know anybody that actually wins these things, right? There's probably like thousands and thousands of entries. Eric won, got the $1,000 sent to him. So like, we know you can win these contests. We know they're doable. Check it out. Pick'em.santanita.com. Speaking of Santa Anita, they have a carryover in their pick 6 today. And if you ever need help playing the races from Santa Anita, you can go to drf.com. And I know you're a big fan of the daily racing form, past performances. Santa Anita has everything you need, past performances, clocker reports for the babies, for the first-time starters, for horses off long layoffs, and DRF picks. So horse racing fans, a lot of help for you, a lot of free action for you with the Pick'em, and then the Santa Anita PPs are over there at drf.com. Wolfie, let's finish up with Monday Night Football. Do the Jets get the fired Robert Saleh coach bounce in here? The Bills are a 2-point favorite on the road. It's amazing because it feels like everything's been crashing down for the Jets, and they actually got lucky in one of their games. They probably shouldn't have beat the Titans. That was one of those Levis has a horrible turnover that basically gives the Jets the win game. But if they win this game, they're right there in the division. They're 3-3. They're right there with the Bills. Nobody thinks that the Dolphins or the Patriots are going to do a whole lot right now with their quarterback situations. So it's basically a 2-team race right now, it kind of feels like, between the Jets and the Bills for that division. And this is a massive, massive game early in the season for how it could swing, for the perception. If Aaron Rodgers comes out here, he's playing well, it looks like maybe Robert Saleh was the problem there, right? Maybe there was a bad energy. But if they get beat here, then we're going to ask, was Robert Saleh really the problem? Is this offense going to get any better? Is it maybe Hackett, the offensive coordinator? Maybe it is Rodgers getting a little bit older and just kind of being stubborn. So this is a huge game for the division, for perception, for a lot of things this week.
I'll tell you one thing. If you were to try to give me a hug, though, I would hug you back. Unlike Aaron Rodgers is
not
Saleh.
Yet. Too early. What did he say? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, it comes down to two things. One, this is a reflex play. If I've got, like I mentioned with the Giants game, the spread is within a field goal. I got plus money on the money line with the Jets, so swing away with the money line. And two, one of my favorite angles in sports betting, especially football, the rally around the interim angle. Just I love these teams that are coming in right off of coaches getting firing. It's just something about whenever someone leaves the facility, these teams can just instantly get better. And I also really think that Nathaniel Hackett not calling the plays anymore is going to be a positive for the New York.
Downing's going to be calling the plays.
Jets. Yeah. So I really think that that's going to be a positive for the Jets here. And I think that it's the spot to go ahead and fire away. I mean, if you're the Buffalo Bills, after you lose that game to Houston like you did, are you kind of, wavering on how you feel about Sean McDermott? Are you losing kind of your faith in him just because, I mean, he had to come out and say, like, I did the wrong thing there. Like, if it's me, I want my coach to probably say, like, yeah, I called 3 straight pass plays and I'll do it again, because I just want someone to be like convicted about what they're doing. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of just intangibles with this game that kind of point me towards the Jets here.
For me, it's hard to play the Bills in this spot just because I think the last couple of weeks we've started to see some of the problems with the Bills. I don't think they're as bad as the game against the Ravens a few weeks ago, but last week, Josh Allen looked really, really bad. I think he was a little banged up, but I think most of it had to do with just the receivers, and he doesn't have a chemistry with these receivers right now. There are a lot of like number 3 wide receivers on his team. He doesn't really have a number 1 guy. So you can see that he's thinking right and they're going left. And there were just, I mean, you can't go 9 for 30 unless that's happening, right, in a game. So I don't know. Go ahead.
It's something that Uncle Rico talks about all the time, is that you have to have that chain mover, that guy that you can go to over and
Absolutely.
over again to get those yards. And I mean, we don't know who that is yet for the
It's
Bills.
not Shakir, right? I've been a little disappointed with them not leaning enough on Kincaid. I think for him, like for them, he could be that, or they maybe were hoping he could be that guy. Yeah, so this one is one of those where I would be Jets probably on the money line or no play. I think.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing them to win at home, getting me a little value. We could get them on the money line at like plus 107. I'm seeing right now. Like I think that's the play or no play in this game for me. So as we finish it up, I want to thank all of you for hanging out with us this week, and a big thank you to Chase for helping out and filling in for Eric. Chase, let's run through a couple of your plays right now before we get out of here. First one for you, Washington plus the 7.
Yeah, that's I think that number is just a little bit too big, especially for a game where this should be really run centric a little bit. With the clock running. But I think that Washington's going to give Baltimore a pretty good fight here.
And then you got another one here, Atlanta, right?
Yeah, Atlanta minus 6. I don't believe in Carolina, and I don't think that Dalton's gonna get the pop for him here. I think they've kind of gotten that out of their system.
Hopefully it's a close game so you and I can be kind of sending each other messages back and forth and like talking a little trash to each other late in the game, hoping that one can have to buy the other one a beer here. So I'm on the Carolina side. Chase is on the Atlanta side. Another one of my best bets on the game side. I'll take the Giants there plus the 3.5. We were talking about how the Giants established a really nice rookie running back last week too, who that's a nice playmaker for them. And even just seeing Daniel Jones willing to take shots down the field, I like, because we used to call this guy Danny Dimes. Yeah. That was his nickname. He used to be able to drop some dimes deep down the field. The Bengals also have a really bad defense. So I think the Giants should be able to move the ball against their defense a little bit. Let's get over to the props. You have a couple of them. Here's your first one.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels under 49.5 rush yards. He's going up against one of the saltiest, rush defenses in the league, if not the saltiest. And I think they kind of keep him under wraps, though I do think that Jaden Daniels might have a pretty good day passing the ball.
And another one for you, Rattler under the 181.5 passing yards.
Yep, the unders taker strikes again. This is going to be a run-first offense for New Orleans today. I think that they're going to try to run through Kamara and Taysom Hill.
One of my prop plays is David Montgomery on the alternate rush total to hit 70 yards. You can get that up to plus 140. Don't forget, folks, head on over to pick'em.santanita.com. You can play in a free contest every single Saturday and Sunday that there's racing at Santa Anita. And every Saturday and Sunday, it pays out $1,000 to the winner. So get involved. There's also a cumulative prize where if you just answer the most questions by the end of the meet and have the most winners, you'll also get $2,000. So every time that you answer and every time you fill out an entry, it's actually helping you stack up and stack up more for the possible long meet prize. Chase, buddy, always a pleasure talking sports with you, man. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday. Good luck in all of your plays. Good luck to everyone out there. And thanks so much for hanging out with us on NFL Betting.